all you guys. Okay. So hi everybody. If you don't already know me, my name's Helen, but I'm not who you came here to see. But thank you so much for being here for the workshop. We hope you've enjoyed the Southern Oasis Film Festival so far. Things are just going to get better. And you know, I'm just going to be sitting here listening to this lovely lady talk. So I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Gala Avary. I am from Los Angeles, California. And I'm a writer-producer of movies. I've been working since I was 15. And over COVID, though, when the industry kind of shut down, we had this bright idea to get into the world of podcasting because, you know, you can't really be on a movie set and you can't really be shooting film or digital during the COVID restrictions in Los Angeles. So we started doing a podcast. And so now I work on two podcasts. I do the Video Archives podcast with Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary, where I produce and I have Third Mic. And then I also do an interview series called The Gala Show. I think I'm almost 98 episodes in now of that, where I interview celebrities, writers, actors, directors, producers, also like health and wellness people if I come across them, just kind of anyone I find interesting. It's like a Los Angeles culture show. But I'm really excited to be here today, kind of talk about podcasting, how I got into it, and also just how to do podcasting, how to start a podcast if you really, really want to do that. So.
Yeah. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to kind of just let her go at it. She's going to talk, and then we'll open the floor for questions.
Oh, yeah. I know most of you.
Yeah.
I don't know the gentleman in the second row, but I know most of you because we had pizza together last night. So
yes. So I guess
I'll start with how I got into it. So I had been working as a writer producer, and in COVID time, so my dad and Quentin, for a little bit of backstory. So my dad and Quentin worked at a video store in the South Bay of Los Angeles, which was the coolest video store to go to, called Video Archives. And it was, I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to remember what a video store was like.
Yes.
There's a few people with their hands raised that'll remember exactly what it was like. And I'm only old enough to have rented video games from Blockbuster, but that's about it. But the video store was kind of the place where you went, the whole neighborhood would go there. You would have your moms, you would have your businessmen, you would have the kids from the high school, and everyone congregated there because that's where you rented your movies during the home video boom. And before that, you had to go to the movie theater to see a movie. You couldn't, or you'd have to catch it on TV if you were lucky that they were playing and watch the TV guide. So Quentin and Roger met. And my dad actually hired Quentin on because he was just an annoying customer that would never leave the store. He was just always there talking about movies. And so they hired him, and then from there they became really good friends. They went on to write Pulp Fiction together, and then later they also collaborated on things like True Romance and lots of other titles. And they're still working together clearly today. So during COVID, Quentin and Roger were on the phone for, I'm not kidding, like 6 to 8 hours at a time. And Quentin was splitting his time. His wife and children live in Tel Aviv, Israel. So they would be talking literally for like 8 hours a day. And finally, we were like, why don't we just start a podcast? Because I'm pretty sure the stuff you guys are talking about is really interesting about movies and current events and things that you find important. And so we started, my dad and I together, kind of broached the subject to Quentin, like, hey, why don't we just record these conversations? And by the time that we finally got going, COVID had lifted, and so we were able to record in person together. So how we all get together is Quentin, when the video store closed, actually purchased the entire stock of all the VHS, and he also owns another store stock called Eddie Brandt's. So he has a whole guest house full of VHS and 2 more rooms or 3 more rooms in his house. And so we actually record within the original shelves of the Video Archives, which is really weird because it's all the original shelves, all the original tapes, and we're sitting there and it feels like you have been transported back to 1987. And so Quentin and Roger get together and they have their bro time. They order a pizza, they pull 3 to 5 movies off the shelves, and they sit down and they watch, and they kind of narrow down their selection, and like a DJ, Quentin picks what tracks are going to be playing, and he says, here are the movies that I want to share with the audience. Now, typically we try to do one movie. The first one is one that everyone's seen. The second one is one that maybe you've heard of, but you never checked out. And the third one, you've never heard of it. Like, it's maybe a public domain title if you're lucky. Maybe I'll be able to track it down. Sometimes he tries to fool me, and it's like, I don't want you to, like, it's going to be hard on you. And so we watch, and then we get together, we record, and then we edit, distill it down, And then we go forward and we publish it. And our first year we were at Sirius XM, so we were more kind of like a radio show. Yeah. And then our second year, which we're in right now, our second season, we are independent, which is really great because I've learned so much more about how to distribute podcasting, how to do all the in-betweens, as well as we also have a Patreon now, which has been a really good kind of side source. And I know a lot of creatives really look into that to see how they can do that. So one of your questions, Helen, that I know we talked about was, how do we distill, like how do we pick what we're doing? How do we wrangle the guys? Because that's a really good question, because if I'm being honest, our video arc, and I work on another show called, as I said, my interview series, which is a little bit different. I can talk about that later. But Video Archives, they talk about 3 movies. We record for, God, maybe sometimes 6 to 8 hours at a time. The guys get to talking, and when they talk, they love to keep going. And their goal, because they're friends, and so it's like when you're 2 friends on a mic, you just keep going, and you just want to talk to your friends. You want to yap. You want to have a good time. So we record the whole thing. And then I work with another producer, and he does more of like the technical editing side. And so he kind of distills the episode down. It's like 2.5, 3 hours, and he takes all the best parts. And then anything he thinks are supplemental, he gives back to me, and I listen through them, and I kind of construct like a best of after show type thing for like an additional episode for people if they really want to get into it. And the way that we distill it, though, is our goal when they are talking about movies is that we want them to, 1, sound like they know what they're talking about. And these guys do know what they're talking about because they lived it. And 2, when we got into podcasting, there's a lot of podcasting is very saturated right now. Right. And when we first got into podcasting, we wanted to make sure we were never poo-pooing on something. Like, we don't want to drag something down and be like, this sucks, and like, this is the worst thing that we've ever seen, and I hate this. We want to, instead of doing like, we do film analysis and film appreciation. So when you're watching a movie, you can kind of, no matter what you're doing, find something you like about it and kind of build upon that. And so that's what we aim to do when we're doing our show, which is really interesting. But it's fun to have to wrangle the guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially with their big personalities and maybe the types of, like right now, Quentin's really into the 1930s. And for those of you that were at pizza with me last night, you'll know that I don't love silent movies. It's been a real struggle kind of, because not only do I produce the show for them, so I do all of the booking of guests, I do like final checks on editing, I upload everything, I do all of our advertising reads, I do all of our advertising outreach, but I also appear on the show. So I have to kind of balance my producer life and my talent life, which can kind of be difficult, because I don't know if some of you guys I know are budding filmmakers, and when you're an actress and you're in a movie, you having to also be the producer, it's a completely different role.
Yeah.
You have to put on a completely different hat, and you have to treat people a little bit differently because you can't do the same thing at the same time. So it's been a really interesting, unique experience.
Yeah. So when it comes to reaching out to guests or even advertisers, do you have like a specific process that you go through, or is it more so just like maybe it's someone you already know? Like, what's your process?
So with guests, I'll start with guests. So guests in particular, and on my interview series, which I started kind of in our in-between seasons, on the interview series, my number one thing was I need a guest every single week. And I've run every single week for about 1.5 years. Gosh. And the biggest thing, and I'll tell this to everyone, if you want to talk to someone, if you want to interview them, if you want to write a book on film, if you're just interested in talking to a director or a writer or an actor, you just have to ask. That's the number one thing. And you might get told no, and you might get told no by every single person you reach out to. But you can't be afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
And so when I was starting my interview series and I was reaching out to guests, I first reached out to people that I knew. And that's one of the big things, especially in whether you're doing podcasting or film, is having kind of a network. And you get this network through a variety of ways. Like, one, you can get this network by going to film festivals and by meeting people and just going up and introducing yourself and shaking your hand. And when you introduce yourself, whether you want to be a filmmaker or you want to be a podcaster, you want to do any of these things, just say, I am a podcaster. I am a filmmaker. And that's one of the best ways that you can go and approach someone, is I am already doing this thing. Not I want to or I'm going to. So when you start reaching out to people, I found people through Instagram, to be honest. I even just like cold messaged on Instagram DMs. And I'm like, hey, I think you're really interesting. We'd love to have you as a guest. Would you be interested? If so, here's an email. Feel to email me, or I can email you. And you kind of just want to be friendly, but always know, like, if they say no to you, it's not because of you.
Yeah.
It can be because of a variety of reasons. It can be they just don't feel like it. They could be camera shy. They could not like doing interviews. They could be busy with their life. Their pet could have just died. Like, you don't know what the situation is. And one good example I have of that is Sean Baker. I know Sean through just the movie scene in Los Angeles, just going to movies, and I've met him several times. And my dad met him at a film festival, so we're very aware of each other. And when I first was doing my interview series, I reached out and I said, Sean, I'd love to interview you. I think you're such a great filmmaker. I love Tangerine specifically, which is just shot on an iPhone. Mm-hmm. Would you like to? And he said, no, I don't do interviews. And I was like, okay, no problem. No problem at all. No worries. And then, of course, Honora came out this year, and he's doing tons of interviews. And I had other friends that got him, and I was thinking, oh my God, this sucks. Like, why did he say no to me? I felt like I took it so personally. Well, then he emailed me, and he said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready now to talk to you. And I was like, great. So sometimes you'll get told no, and it just takes a while. And then you're circling in someone's mind, or you reach back out. And I've done this with lots of people. Like, you just can't be afraid to reach out and ask for a guest to come on your show. And if you're doing, so there's two different kind of avenues with podcasting, and I'll get into this. So there's video podcast, I think, and then there's straight up audio podcast. And the world that I'm in is straight up audio podcasting. But if you are wanting to start a podcast, or you are wanting to do any kind of podcasting work, I would recommend adding a video element to it. It's the way that the younger generation, younger than me, like Gen Z, is absorbing all of their material. Like, they're absorbing it through YouTube. They're absorbing it through Instagram Reels, through TikTok, and through shorts like that. And so if you want to get yourself out there and market yourself, you kind of need to have video. Audio kind of has a cap at about like how many people will tune in without seeing faces, because when I think about this, podcasting had this really big bubble, right? During COVID especially, because we were all separated from each other. And one of the things that's so great is when you participate and you see a video, you see people's facial reactions, you see that they are participating with you, you kind of feel like you're their friend. Mm-hmm. You even see this in like mukbang videos, like when people are eating and like you're eating along with them, you kind of get like this whole like I'm with them at the table feeling. So if you want to start a podcast, my number one thing would be to add a video element to it. And that's as easy as, you don't have to do it in person. You can do it on video, digitally. Like, there's this great app called Riverside, and there's a free, and it's free. So there's a free app called Riverside, and you can pay for it if you want to get like more access to materials. But Riverside is one of the best tools if you want to do any kind of podcasting or interviewing. It can capture both audio and visual, and you can even edit on the timeline. For those of you that like to use AI, you can use AI transcripts with it. It will kind of do a little bit of AI editing. If you're old school like me and you don't like to use the artificial intelligence on everything, there are other free programs you can use. Like Audacity is a really great program for just audio editing. It's 100% free, open source. That's what I edit all of my interviews on. And you kind of just start, and you just kind of learn how to use the tools. And that's the weird thing about podcasting, is anyone can do it. And maybe that's also why it's so saturated right now, because anyone can do it. You just need a microphone, you just need a camera, you just need an editing software, and we all have those in our pockets 24/7. We all have phones, and we all have, it's recording right now.
Yeah.
As we speak. The thing is, though, when I talk about the saturation in the industry, it is very saturated. And so if you are, and for a while there was a lot of money in advertising and podcasting because so many people were listening to it. But thankfully, we are going back to life. We have returned to life. We are going back to the theaters. We are back at sports games. We are living, and we are not needing to just be by ourselves listening to continually consuming content, because we all want to do it with each other. Right. So there was a big bubble of a lot of money. It's not there as much anymore. And that just means that if you want to be doing this and you want to be podcasting, that you have to keep going with it. Mm-hmm. because you might reach episode 8 and not be seeing a lot of returns, and you might start getting a little discouraged and start feeling like, I'm just going to quit this. I'm not going to do it. But if you really want to do it, you just keep going. And eventually, because people see, okay, I can rely on this person. This person will be there every week, every month, every 2 weeks, whatever their schedule is. They will be there for me, and I can tune in, and I can rely that I'm going to have this piece of media to consume. And that's important. I have 2 friends. They're comedians in Austin, and they have a podcast, and they kind of had to figure it out. Like, one guy was just doing it by himself every week with a guest, and he started feeling like really stressed out. He was like, oh my God, how can I keep doing this every single week by myself? So he added his friend in, and because they know each other, they can kind of banter. And then when their guest comes in, they have an extra person. And I messaged him because he was feeling discouraged. He's like, why has my podcast not caught on with the algorithm yet? I'm doing everything that I've read online that I'm supposed to be doing. And I just told him, just wait. It's going to keep going, and it's going to grow over time. And you're going to own your library, whatever episodes you've put out. It's going to exist on YouTube or Spotify. The back ad catalog will run, and it'll just keep growing and growing and growing. I talked with him, and he's like, yeah, you're right. It has finally caught on. Okay, now I'm seeing over 1,000 listens. I'm seeing over this. And so it's like you just can't get discouraged. Yeah. So when you reach out to guests, don't get discouraged. When you are just going, don't get discouraged. And then you talked a little bit, I like that. You talked a little bit about advertising.
Yes.
So that's the big thing, because once you've made your podcast, and I guess before you get advertised though, you record your podcast, and whether it's like you guys together talking about movies, like, oh, this is like what we just saw this week. I'll just use that because I got some film students in the front row, and it's like, here's what we just talked about this week. Okay, so you make your podcast, you record it, you've edited it, now what do you do with it? So there's a few different avenues, and you want to find a distribution outlet for it. And some of them, you're going to have to pay a little bit for hosting because you're hosting material. But like Spotify, you can distribute through Spotify. I use a service called Libsyn, Libsyn. They're really great. You upload to their host service, and then they distribute on all platforms. And you can upload, and they'll even distribute to your YouTube, which is really excellent. So Libsyn is kind of, for me at least, and what's great about them, because I use another service called Transistor, which had really great distribution, but they did not have capability to place ads. So Libsyn allows you to place advertisements within your podcast. And so you can just select when your ad breaks are and how many ads you want, and then they will automatically place those ads in for you. And then per listen, like per ad listen, you get X amount of cents, basically. So it's at the cent level. And then the great thing about that, though, is it's a back catalog, which means it's everything that isn't coming out weekly. Like you have your back catalog and you have your new episode every week or every 2 week or every month. So and your schedule is up to you. Some shows will only release every month, or there's a few that release literally once every 6 months, like big historical podcasts. They take a lot of time to produce. My interview series were every week, sometimes twice a week, because I just get in and I go out. Video Archives podcast, we are every other week, unless you pay for Patreon, which then you're every week. But like that has a bigger editing time, so we try to bank our episodes. But so once you get on your distribution, then you want to start doing your advertising. And so you can use a host like Libsyn, which will put ads on your back catalog, and you'll just start earning money every month. It'll just slowly trickle in, kind of like how YouTube does.
Yeah.
After over time, you kind of build your catalog and you have more and more and more. And then at a certain point, when you've reached a certain amount of listeners, you can start taking ad reads. So with us, we use Libsyn. So Libsyn is my advertising agent, and they see how many downloads our new episode gets in the first 90 days, and then they do 30 and 90, but 90 days, and then they have a sales team, which basically will start bringing you like, oh, here's this product, this one requires personal experience, so you're going to have to use it. So I'll say, okay, I can't use that one because it's a collagen product. I don't eat collagen because I'm a vegetarian. So, okay, I can't do that one. But then here's this product that's like, oh, they just want you to do for 1-800-Flowers, do an ad read. Okay, great. I can do a 1-800-Flowers ad read, no problem. So then with these kinds of ads, you then would record yourself doing the ad. They'll give you the copy. and then you send it to them, and then they place it in the episode. And then you earn X amount of dollars based on I think the ad rates change depending on how many listens you get. And then also like depending on if you're a celebrity or if you're regular person, it's like they'll give you different rates. Yeah. I think for right now, I think the rate is like for 25,000 downloads in the first 30 days is $600, which is a big difference than what it was during COVID. During lockdown, it was way, way, way more than that. Mm-hmm. You can take other approaches though, especially if you're doing video episodes. You can do something like sponsors. And a lot of people will just get one sponsor for their episode. And it's typically something that you would use. So like I know someone who is like a big comedian, and he had a podcast that ran for 100 episodes. And so his thing was he's a huge stoner. And so he would advertise marijuana products. Whereas like on my show, I would not personally advertise marijuana products. It's just personal choice. But he would advertise that. And so those were his sponsors. And like vape products, like they would sponsor him.
Right.
I know all sorts of different brands that will sponsor. And you see on YouTube, you'll see like Factor Meals is sponsoring a lot right now, Raycon headphones. And so once you reach kind of like a certain amount of listens and a certain amount on your back catalog, you're able then to go out to these sponsors and kind of like talk with them, or to an advertising agency.
Yeah. So kind of on that same like pathway, you have to do ad reads. As a producer, you have to have like a certain workflow, like this is when it's going to be done. How do you organize, I got to get ad reads done, I got to make sure it's edited, like what's your time frame? How do you organize?
I think it's really varied. So when you are producing a podcast, and I'll give you an example for Video Archives versus an example for my interview series. So on the Gala show, I'll book my guest, I'll drive there, I'll do my interview. I like that. I'll drive there, I'll do my interview, and my interviews will only be like 30 to 45 minutes. So the episodes are pretty, and it's just flow of consciousness. They have 30 minutes to talk about whatever topic they decide to bring to me. So I get all sorts of people, which is really fabulous. But with that, I'll just go to my local boba shop. I'll go sit down. I'll drag and drop it into Audacity. I'll edit it, and I'll put my theme music and my commercial breaks. And that's a pretty quick turnaround because it's just doesn't take a lot of effort. Video Archives takes a lot of effort. When we record, and we're recording for like that 6 to 8 hours, depending on the episode. Our producer, Josh, it takes him about 2 weeks to do like his first cut. And after he's done, and then that's full of audio editing, building out the episode, putting theme music in, et cetera, et cetera. Once he's done it, I'll listen to it, and sometimes Josh will get no notes. Sometimes Josh will get 6 rounds of notes. It is like the guys Quentin and Roger really want the episode to be perfect. And sometimes you'll listen to it and you'll go, hey, like, where was that comment that I made about this? And it's like, okay, we got to go find that and put it in now and find where to put it. Or, hey, I don't really know if I like this in the front. I really want it more in the back of the episode. Or, I don't like how you ended the episode. Move everything around. So sometimes you get notes like that.
Yeah.
And that can be really stressful because you're like, okay, this episode has to come out in a week. Yeah. Like, we're on a little bit of a time crunch. But when we have more time, because we know, okay, we have 6 episodes banked. And we know we have more time, so we don't have to be like, we're going to have to rush or we're going to have to do this. We can shape the episode a little bit better. Or it's like, you know what? This episode's taking too long to put together. Let's move it back and work on something else for a little bit. So we get that there. So again, it's like you have to balance all these things. And with advertisers, it's like, okay, you have an ad and they're like, you need to come and like accept the ad within like 48 hours. You say yes or no if I can do it. And then they're like, okay, here's our turnaround now. We need an ad in a week. And it's like, okay, so if I was here and I got an advertising request, I can't fulfill it because I don't have my microphone with me. Or I would say if Roger or Quentin, for example, like if they want to pay that rate, they can pay that rate instead. But it's kind of like that. You just have to be on top of it and you have to be really organized. And my number one thing I recommend to everyone is keep a calendar. You have one in your pocket. A calendar is a mighty, mighty tool. It's really great to, especially in this industry, to be on time and to keep track of everything you have to do. Like, especially, I'm juggling a lot of balls in the air. If I'm like, I can't forget, like, for example, we did a live show It was our very first live show, and Patreon sponsored it, which, thank you, Patreon. They sponsored our very first live show, and so we showed a movie, and we talked afterwards, and it was our very first video episode, so everyone was a little bit nerve-wracked because we don't do video. And Quentin wants to keep it like a radio show. He feels like that's the ethic of the show. Like, it's a radio program. It's not a TV show. It's a radio program. But when we're doing it, so I'm producing it, but then I also have to get up there and go perform. And so it can be really stressful because it's like, what if I forget this aspect of it? What if I don't remember? I just make lists. I make tons of checklists, make tons of calendar reminders. And sometimes things do fall through the cracks though, because I was doing that Patreon event, and then at the end of the month in Austin, Roger and I have a Patreon event. And so I'm like, okay, I have to juggle both of these, and I'm getting lost in the email of which one is which. What am I doing? Where am I going? But just take a breath. Like anything, any career that you're doing, if you feel overwhelmed, just take a breath and just know it's going to be okay. I have a lot of balls in the air, but it's also really, really, really rewarding. And I'm sure people know when you make anything artistic and then people get to see it and people get to listen to it and people comment on it, it's really rewarding. And it's like, I did that. I made that. And that's just one of the great things about it.
So kind of going with that, you also have a pretty strong like brand identity. You utilize social media, and you're talking about how the market is so saturated. Is there anything you would say to podcasters who are trying to build not just a podcast, but a brand for their podcast and engage with people?
Yeah, I think again, it really comes down to consistency. I think when you have a consistent look that is quickly identifiable, and we talk about this a lot because we have this logo for Video Archive specifically that was the original logo for the store. And so the guys really want to utilize that original logo for the store. But when you are dealing in audio, and like you guys know, Spotify or Apple, and it's like this big. It's like the logo is so tiny. And so you want something that's immediately recognizable. And if you... like there's this big conversation, do we put Quentin and Roger's faces on the podcast logo? Mine is like, I say, yes, we do, because then people can see like that's who's talking. Like we know right off the bat, Quentin has a very recognizable face.
Yes.
So we want to put his face on, but Quentin's like, no, I just want it to be about the logo, about the thing. So it's like, okay, so how do we do it then? Okay, well, we have to bring in color. You need to make sure that it's not too muddy. There's not too many little words happening. We had a thing where we're like, well, we'll put like season 2 in the little tiny bottom corner. And then I was looking at it, I'm like, I can't see that. Yeah. I don't know what the difference is between that. So you want consistency in like you're releasing to build and build and build. You want to have an identifiable thing right off the bat. Like, this is what the show is. This is the logo of the show. This is the look of the show. This is the feel of the show. And you just, with the consistency, you just incorporate that into it. And then to just keep building your brand, you want to, again, you just want to be like relatable, friendly. You don't want to alienate people. If you find a niche, like if you have one episode that does really, really well or better than your other episodes, it's always worth it to take a look and say, why did that do better? Was it because I went to a different format? Is it because I had an interesting guest? Is it because I did my hair a different way? Like, you never know. There could be something. Or is it, it's because I did a 30-minute episode rather than an hour. And when we talk about episode lengths, actually, the standard episode length that you want the show to be is probably 30 to 45 minutes. That's the length of a commute. And so most people that are listening to audio shows or podcasts, like if you're not sitting at home doing your homework or eating a meal and you want to have a podcast on, most people will be commuting while they're listening. And so they want like 30 to 45 minutes. And advertisers also want 30 to 45 minutes because if you have a longer episode, like 2.5 hours, people will usually kind of come start and stop it. And so you want your first ad break like in the first like 5 to 10 minutes, which cannot be great on the consumer, in my opinion at least. Like, I don't love it when shows front load ads. I like them when they come naturally kind of at the midway mark. But I understand why shows front load ads because they need to, because it's like you have people in the first 5 minutes. And especially if you have YouTube analytics, for example, because YouTube gives great analytics, you might see that most of your clicks, and it might be disheartening, are only 15 seconds. And you're like, oh my God, they only listen for 15 seconds? And it's like, okay, well, that's okay though, because they clicked on it. At least my logo worked. But you see it and it's like, okay, that's good to know because, and rightfully so, I do it too. You stop and start. You don't always listen to like a full 2-hour thing. I mean, I have a life. I can't always listen to a full 2-hour episode of something all the way through. Yeah. So if you want to start and you want to build, I mean, again, the 30 to 45 minutes is really important. I think that doing your logo, your look of your show, deciding if you want video, I think video is really important. I think people, I know I sound funny saying that because I do audio only, but I think video is like the most important thing to grow your show. Yeah. And then that social media outreach. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know how to edit and you don't know how to edit clips or you don't know how to do that, one, you can learn. Everyone is really smart. They can, especially if you feel passionate about doing this, you can learn. But if you get overwhelmed, there are tons of people online that specialize in doing social media clips, etc. And yes, you will have to pay them. But as your show grows, you might have the budget to do that, which is really excellent. And those clips will bring people to you on social media. But since this is the complicated thing. So if you have, let's just use Instagram, for example. So if you have Instagram for your show and you have a reel that does really well, like 1 million views, they still aren't listening to your episode. They're just seeing you, and you are your brand at this point. Mm-hmm. So they're at least identifying you with your brand, but they aren't clicking on your episode. So then the next step is I actually got to get them to click through. Yeah. And I actually got them to get to where they need to go, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc., or my website or something. You actually have to get them to do that extra click. Yeah. So you just gotta keep persisting. You just gotta keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to open it up to questions, but my personal greatest curiosity, you've been working on the video archives. They talk about movies so often. What is a movie that they talked about that you just really connected to, sitting there listening to them?
Oh, the number one, and it's kind of a funny story actually. I don't know if anyone here has seen Rollerball. Yeah, I got a hand in the back. Okay, Rollerball. Rollerball, I think, is one of the greatest movies of all time. Oh, I have a poster in my house. I think it's an amazing movie. And on that episode, we almost didn't release it because it was supposed to be paired with other movies, and we got into a big argument about Rollerball because Rollerball is a story of one man. There's no female characters in it. Oh. And we had someone saying, that was a guest of ours, this is a sexist movie, this is etc. And I was fighting with them because I'm listen, I don't have to look like Jonathan to relate to Jonathan. Jonathan just wants to play rollerball. He does not want to sell out. They're trying to get him to, in the movie, they're trying to get him to stop playing. And no, he just wants to play ball. It's his life. And they're no, we'll give you the farm. We'll give you a wife. We'll give you the perfect life. You have to stop playing rollerball. It's a really great movie. But I was you know what? What would I have done if they told me, Gala, we're going to take away your pencil. You can no longer ever write anything creative ever again. But we'll give you everything, all the money, all the possessions. We'll give you your soma. Take this pill. You'll be fine. Would I do that? No, I would not do that. So that's one thing when I learned from the guys, the ways that you can relate to movies, you don't have to look like someone in it. And the episode ended up being one of my favorite discussions because we trimmed it down, we edited it around. Yeah. It ended up, I really, that was a baby of mine, that episode. I was I gotta save Rollerball. I love this movie so much. I love that. There's lots of movies they talk about that I really end up loving, and there's some that I'm I really don't like this at all. I have to watch it, and I'll try to find something I like, but yeah, that's definitely it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, you guys, it's your turn.
If you have any questions,
I'm going to stay in the hot seat, but raise your hands if you have a question.
Rollerball outside of a...
I think Rollerball is available for streaming. I think you can probably get it on Amazon. Is it on Tubi? Okay, great, yeah.
Tubi, yes.
There's, that's another thing. I'll talk about this, and I know it's not necessarily podcast related, but if you love watching movies, there are so many free movies and free resources out there. So many great public domain films too. YouTube is a great source, Internet Archive. I personally don't pirate, but those are my two big sources for finding movies. Tubi, as you said.
Or the library.
Weren't we talking about?
We were talking a lot about the library last night.
Yes, because Janine has a podcast actually that she's starting where they go to the library and they check out a movie from the library. And I thought that was such a great idea because And she told me she checked out a VHS. And I said, I did not know the library would still have VHS. I didn't even know they still had DVDs. And there's actually streaming services. I forget what they are. But if you have a library card, you can actually access all the movies on the streaming service for free. And so those are really powerful tools because they're, like, for example, if you wanted to start a podcast about movies, you might think, oh, there's a barrier of entry with doing this because I have to buy a ticket and maybe I don't have this money. But no, like, there are tons of free movies that you can talk about that are just as interesting. And the fact that your audience then could go check out a free movie and watch it kind of along with you is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it more accessible to the audience.
Accessibility, I think accessibility in podcasting is the number one thing. Like, when you see shows that are really popular, and like on one side of the spectrum, you're going to have Joe Rogan. On the other side of the spectrum, you're going to have Call Her Daddy or Call Me Daddy or whatever. They're both just shows where people are kind of hanging out. They're exactly the same thing, but just on two different sides of whatever spectrum they're on. And you just acknowledge, like, these are the kinds of things that people want to listen. They want to listen to people talk. They want to listen to people that have good chemistry. And whether it's one person interviewing someone, and I mean, you can do a podcast by yourself. You can. They're kind of more like video essays without the video or with the video. But you can do it by yourself too. If you just are like, you know what, I
have a lot of words.
I have a lot of words. I have a lot of thoughts, and I want to share them and express them. You can.
Slay. Okay. You? Oh, we'll come to you next, Rowan. You.
So, if there's a movie that's being discussed that you just like really did not like it at all, like how do you participate in the conversation or help keep it going when you're trying to like keep it positive and not be putting down something that someone's worked hard to make, but you just really like if you're just like really you're just really not the target audience for that movie.
Yeah, if I'm not the target audience and I really don't like something, how am I going to kind of still discuss it? And I think, and without putting it down, I think that's a really good question. And I think that comes to the difference between watching a movie and reading a film. And these are probably things that you're learning in film school and film classes, because I can I can read a Marvel movie, but I can go to a Marvel movie and I can just watch it. I can go see Sonic 3 and I can just watch it and I can just sit and have a really good time. But if you want to learn how to read a film, you don't necessarily have to like the movie or dislike the movie. You can just understand where the filmmaker's coming from. And like last night, for example, like when they played I Walk the Line, and we talk about it a little bit afterwards, and it's like, there's a lot of questionable things in that. Okay, it's a Frankenheimer film, first off. He's an amazing director. And when you look at a movie and you decide, okay, I like this, and I did like that movie, but I'm going to just use it as an example anyway. If I didn't like it, but I still wanted to talk about it, and I still wanted to pick out what's good about it, I'm going to think and I'm going to say, okay, what were the aspects that I did like about the movie? Okay, I liked the lighting. Okay, now who does that kind of work on the set? Okay, the cinematographer. Okay, I liked I like those weird shots. What are those called? Okay, it's a split diopter. And you see a split diopter, and then you start learning, okay, the difference between a hard split and a soft split. When the hard split, it shows you the line, the soft split, it's all blurred. And you think, okay, I liked that, so let me talk about that. Let me do a little bit more research on that. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, I like the cinematographer. What other movies has he done? And you kind of start leading, and then you find your niche, even if you don't like a movie. Sometimes I watch like a 1930s movie, and I'm like, man, I just really did not like this. And then I ask myself, well, what about it is it that I didn't like? Okay, if it's a silent film, the reason I didn't like it is because I watched it on my computer. A silent movie should be seen with an audience in the theater. If you're going to be watching Charlie Chaplin, I want to be in a room full of children laughing at a Saturday matinee, because children understand Charlie Chaplin better than I do. And they're going to help me understand him. And so even if I don't like it, and I'm never afraid also to admit I don't understand. I didn't get it. I'm never afraid to admit that. If I watch a movie and I'm like, you know what, man, I just didn't get it. Like if I'm going to watch The Shining, I don't get it. And maybe I don't like it as much because I don't understand it. And there are some people that'll watch it 30 times, and on their 31st time, they'll be like, I get it now. Yeah. I understand. I'm a different person than when I first saw it. So I get it now.
And it's great that you fostered like a podcast environment where you'd be empowered to say that. I just didn't get it.
No, I think that's an important thing, is because when you learn that you can admit, I did not understand something, there is someone that you will come across that will teach you. And if you just pretend like, oh, I know everything, or I got it, to fit in, or you don't foster discussion. And that's the big thing. Like, you want to discuss, and I assume we all love movies here. Like, we want to talk about movies. We want to be like, and at the end, that's also the most important thing. Quentin and Roger, it's like, especially in today's climate, you can disagree with someone and like really disagree with them and then never speak ever again because you disagree on something so mad, and people hold things really close to their chest. You don't need to do that. We can disagree about things, and at the end of the day, we can go have a pizza. Like, we can disagree about the movie, we can fight about it. Okay, now let's go. Like, we can go hang out now.
Yeah.
It's not that serious.
As long as the pizza doesn't have mushrooms.
No, as long as it doesn't have mushrooms, we're good.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Oh, I believe it was Rowan next. Then we'll come back to you.
I know you said at the beginning, well, also all throughout, that consistency was really, really important. When you first start releasing things, do you think it's more helpful to have like a bank of like 3 episodes and put all of them out at once, or just start with the one and then release them on the time?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. So if you are first starting your podcast, you are going to want to bank a few episodes. So you're going to want to say, how long did it take me to edit, shoot, make my episode? Okay, if it took me a week, you probably want to you don't want to be like busting yourself every single week to like, and killing yourself to get this out. You want to give yourself a little bit of leeway. So if it's like, okay, it took me a week, okay, I'm going to make 4 episodes so I have some lead time. And if life gets in the way, then like I understand. And also your listeners will understand if life gets in the way and you can't release on time for some reason, but you just don't want to be doing that all the time. Now, I would say you want to just release 1 episode at first, and you want to release your strongest episode. And that might not be the first episode you record. That might be the 5th episode that you record. But if it's the strongest one, you might want to put that one out first. Sometimes it just depends also what your topic is. If your topic is like talking about movies, or if you are interviewing people, like I think my first interview I did was with a gentleman named Craig McNeil, who has a film podcast. But I did not release that until like episode 6 or 8. And I definitely got better, and I released my first episode ended up being like one of the 10th that I had recorded. And it's just because I felt like that guest and I had really good chemistry. It was a strong outing. And then like maybe you want to like strategically like, okay, like this episode is really strong and this one's also really strong. So let me put something that's like I wasn't as confident in between them. So that you kind of have a varied. So it's not like confident, and then like less.
Yeah.
You know, so like kind of just mix it up a little bit. But definitely just 1, because they're going to say, okay, what is this? And like, let me come back and see it again.
Okay.
And if you have 3 out already, like that's cool. But people are they're not going to find your podcast immediately anyway. And so if you have that episode out and then 3 weeks later they find you, you're going to have 3 episodes out anyway. I hope that answered your question.
So a 2-part question.
Yes.
First part, do you listen to podcasts?
The answer is no. I actually don't listen to podcasts. I am so busy editing podcasts. That's okay. That's a little bit of a lie. I have 2 podcasts I listen to.
Okay.
I listen to the guys over at There Are Too Many Movies. They are my favorite, like, let's hang out podcast. I actually do hang out with them in real life now because I met them and I love them so much. And you know what? Those guys are a great example of a movie podcast. They were just 3 guys in high school. 2 of them ended up one of them went and did PR at Lionsgate. So he did, for a very long time, he works now for the Dallas Cowboys. The other guy is an editor. And so he's working every day, editing movies, commercials, podcasts, etc. And the third guy, I don't know what Alex does, but it's not movies. I don't know what he does. He has a job. And those guys were just 3 people in high school that really loved movies. They were in their AV club together. They got together and they just started talking about movies. And they just started recording it. And over the years, because they loved doing it, their video got better. Their chemistry is excellent. And they partnered with the Texas Theater, which is their local theater, to end up doing events. And this was so smart for them. So their podcast started basically hosting events. Like the theater would help them get a movie, or they'd show something public domain. And they started building a community where the people can listen to their podcasts, or they can just come and see a movie with them. And I think, honestly, that's so smart. And then they started getting invited to press screenings so because they talk about new movies. So because of that, they go and they have a press screening and they get to go, and then they'll talk about Nosferatu after. And so they're kind of like in the press circuit. And like on my interview series, I kind of got, by like my 2nd season, I was inducted because I met a manager into the press circuit. And so you just kind of like, once you do something enough, you get noticed by people, and then they start wanting to send people your way, or like have you talk about certain things. And so you just kind of grow. So I listen to them. And then I listened to the comedy podcast of those two Austin guys. It's called Friendly Fire. And I like them because it's just, again, it's a good hang. And they have like interesting comedian guests. They do kind of sometimes silly, wacky things. They record in a studio that they rent out. There Are Too Many Movies guys, they have a home studio. Mm-hmm. I have a home studio and a mobile kit. So I'm 100% mobile when I do my interviews. It's just two mic stands, cables, and a small little recording box. I record everything on there. And then at Quentin's, we have a standing studio. So you can do it all different ways. But yeah. So I sometimes listen to podcasts.
That's honestly really, that gives me some hope, because I'm launching a podcast, but I also don't really listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. I have two that I listen to. I have my Emotional Support Canadians and the No Film School podcast. But I'm curious how you then either discover new podcasts, which is people you would want to have and cross-pollinate your networks or your audiences, or just how you discover new creators that you want to connect your brand to.
I think that's also a really great question because, for example, when we started podcasting and Video Archives, I was really lucky because we had Quentin, so people, took immediate notice to us. But when I first started podcasting, I realized it is really important to kind of network with some other podcasters. And depending on what genre your podcast is, I have some people that I know that are specifically mental health podcasts. And so it's good for them to connect with other creators in that space. So for me, when I'm talking about movies, it's really great for me to, as I said, Craig McNeil ended up being my very first guest that I released or that I recorded with. And it's because he reached out to me when we started doing our podcast and kind of was like, hey, I do podcasting also. Let me kind of help you if you have any questions. And so he was a great asset. I love Craig. There Are Too Many Movies guys, that's a really good example because I guest on their show a lot. And the way that I found them was through social media. I saw an Instagram reel. They had commented on Beetlejuice, which I hated. And I know, it was terrible. And I went with someone who loved it, and I could not stand the movie. And we argued after a dinner. It was thing, but they did something on it, and I tagged my friend, and I was like, see, look, they don't like it either. And then they messaged me, and they're like, oh, hey, or they followed me, and so I followed them back, and then I messaged them, we kind of talked, and you just kind of when you see people that you like, you just follow them, you just message them. If you want to discover things, it's you just, again, I have friends that are doing mental health podcasts, so for them, they network outside of kind of, and then it's oh, I have a podcast, oh, I have one too, let's guest on each other's, or oh, I do a YouTube show, let's collaborate. Let's even do a collaborative post, etc. And you just kind of meet people, and even if I don't listen to a full episode of a podcast, I still I'll watch a short on Instagram. I like these guys. These are cool. I'll give them a follow. See what they do. I'll watch them on YouTube every now and then. So
yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, we have time for one more. I'm gonna let you choose who you want to answer. Oh, there you go, Griffin.
I was wondering if there were any elements of producing that you weren't expecting when you first started, and you just start doing it, and you're well,
what am I doing?
I never have to do this.
Yeah, that's a really great question because I produce both movies and I produce podcasting, and it is two completely different worlds. When you produce a movie, and we can talk about this after also because I'll get more into the podcasting. It is the hardest thing you're ever going to do. You're going to feel like you're dying, and you never want to do this ever again, and then you go home and you weep. And then you're oh, that was really fun. Let's go again. That was amazing.
It sounds like Stockholm Syndrome.
It's a little bit like Stockholm Syndrome. We are all at war with each other. Yeah, we're all at war with each other. Literally, we are an army, and we're making a movie. And then when it's over, it's where are all my friends? I just got out of the trenches, but where are they all? And I have to go do it again. I need to deploy myself again. And it's the most rewarding thing. Now, when it came to podcasting, there's a lot that goes on with it that you don't expect. Sometimes you have talent that all of a sudden doesn't want to do things that you thought you were going to do. You plan for a big event, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks in advance, you're sorry guys, we're not going to do this anymore. And as the producer, it's up to you to protect your talent. You always are there to protect them, and you protect their best interests. And there are some producers that will protect their own best interests, but I'm not that kind of producer. My talent is the most important to me. It's if my talent feels uncomfortable or they don't want to do something, it's up to me to figure out how to make them comfortable or how to get them out of that situation. If in podcasting, when you're producing it, there's just a lot that goes on. You just have to keep a lot on your toes. You have to make sure that you're posting on time. Like, that's my number one thing. If I ever forget to post, once I got really, really, really sick, like last month, I was so sick. I was literally, I couldn't tell what time it was. I lost a whole week of my life, it felt like. And then I got a text message from our other producer that's like, where's the episode? Like, it didn't come out. I'm like dying. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like, there are people on Patreon flipping out because the free episode came out, but the paid one didn't. And I was like, oh my God. And it turned out that I had written PM instead of AM. And so I was like, okay, well, I told him, like, sorry guys, like, I'm dying right now, but like, here's the episode. And I have a very friendly relationship with like our Patreon members, which is, I'm really thankful for. They're really great guys. But yeah, there's a few things that a lot falls on your shoulders. And especially, I don't really think gender makes a huge difference when it comes to the work that you do. I think like work speaks for itself. But sometimes as a girl, I feel like I can be a little bit more emotional. And that is something that I have to not do. Like, I can't be super emotional or let something affect me. I have to like be strong and professional, you know? And so sometimes you want to go cry, like you want to go cry about something, or like someone says something mean to you and I want to go cry about it. I can't. I am the producer. That is my role. And I have to just be strong and do the work. And it falls on you. And it is so rewarding though to have that happen and then to show and have a bunch of people listen and want to talk about it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have. You guys do not want to miss Rules of Attraction.
Yes.
She will also be doing a Q&A. So if you have questions,
yes, especially if you're a college student, won a GLAD award. If you're a college student, it is the real college experience.
Yeah.
I was told in 2002. So.
And, you know, we've talked a lot about podcast producing over there. We're going to talk a little bit more about your work, film specific.
Yeah.
So you guys are not going to want to miss it. And up next, we have Bob to come up here, and he's going to do a screenwriting workshop. So thank you guys so much.
Yay. Thanks for talking to me and having me.
Absolutely.